fighting a large corporation. Page County, Madison County, Jefferson County, Clark County, they're all here today. This isn't pie in the sky, this isn't speculation. There's 10,000 acres right now in the state of Iowa, 10,000 acres right now that are under duress. These folks represent, for every one of them, you can have 5 to 10 people. They are crying out. I had one lady call me or email me the other day and said, for those of you that are in power, just please help me. My land's not for sale. It's that simple. Please help me. Representing Tymosin and Grassland, Representing Mertz is also a co-sponsor on 3 of the bills. We believe have some very reasonable, non-pie-in-the-sky solutions to this. Last summer when we were here with Representative Tymosin and former Representative Fallon were here with the Clark County folks, they asked Majority Leader McCarthy, what will you do about this? He says if there's a hole in the law, we'll look at fixing that. In fact, I think the Des Moines Register pointed that out. I'm going to take Representative McCarthy at his word. There will be 7 bills that will be filed today. They will probably be read in tomorrow. We have a paper here to outline what all of those particular laws do. We know it's an uphill climb. We know that. We know that there's all kinds of things that can be done to not work with this. You can bury it in committee or bury it in subcommittee. You can rule it not germane if we have to end up turning this into amendments. This may end up having to be a vote on a suspension of rules. I don't know. But I cannot look these people in the face and I cannot return these emails without having some kind of a vote on something we all know. Both logically based on the polling numbers, both logically depending on the historic override, and also in your hearts that these folks need some help. The federal government should not be coming into this state and working with people that do not own the land to take the land from these people. It's that simple. Practical and very real now. What is it that we want to do in this legislature that we think has the overwhelming support of Iowans, not just the ones that are under duress? And we'll start with Representative Tymosin.
Thank you. Well, it has become clear that we need to strengthen the law related to building lakes in Iowa and make sure that water needs are not being inflated to justify taking more acres. We have outlined 7 bills that, and this will give you some detail on those bills. One of them related to the taking of land for lakes would require that the agency who's acquiring the land must demonstrate by clear and convincing evidence that no other prudent and feasible alternative for drinking water source exists. That currently is not the case, and so that's one of the main points of that legislation. You want me to talk about that?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. Also, we know that most Iowans believe taxpayer dollars should not be used for projects that take the land of other Iowans. So we are introducing a bill that would say, for the purposes of exercising eminent domain authority, public use, public purpose, and public improvement would not include projects that receive state funding or taxpayer dollars. And there are some programs outlined in that legislation. In addition, there are 2 other bills that I'm having drafted that are not on your list that relate to property rights. One deals with annexation. Involuntary annexation is in its own way an invasion or an assault on private property rights. And I believe that a town that is not even providing services should have the ability to condemn and take land. That's just absurd. I also have a bill that deals with open meetings, and I believe the legislature will deal with open meetings this year because a lot of the problem in this area deals with the fact that people are not being involved in the process, especially the landowners. Public open meetings would be required to post the notice in the same place every time and not move it around town, so it's a guessing game as to where the public meeting notice is. They would be required. The public body holding the meeting would be required to provide copies of all information provided at the meeting to everyone in attendance within a reasonable period of time, either by email or by hard copy. public meeting. Right now, the law says 24 hours ahead, but this would require 72 hours notice. And a certain percentage of the meetings need to be held in the evening hours. A huge percentage of the landowners that we have been in contact with are telling us these meetings are being held in the middle of the day when most Iowans are at work and cannot attend the public meeting unless you're a person working for government. So in addition to the 7 bills that are on this list, there are also other areas that are directly affecting property rights in Iowa. So thank you all for being here today.
Not done yet. This problem's too big. Representative Grassley has some of our other ideas, many of which came from you folks.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming down today, and thank Representative Kaufman and Tymeson for letting me join this. I wasn't here for the first eminent domain fight, but I'm hoping we'll be here this year to go around in the second. First thing, before I get into my bills, I can relate to what Joel's having to say. We've been spending all this time down here in the legislature to keep the young people here, and that's all that we really seem to talk about. But I think what we're telling our young people is go ahead and come visit, but don't come live in our state, because you better be looking over your shoulder all the time for the government to take your land. And I actually am a part of a 4th-generation farm myself, so I can sympathize with you. That is a very scary proposition what you're going through, and that's why I think all these bills need to be pushed through. And these are bipartisan bills. The 2 that I have today are bipartisan, and this is a bipartisan issue in my opinion. This isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. We need to work together because this is about property rights for Iowans. What my first bill does is establish a property owner defense fund to reimburse reimbursements occurred during legal proceedings. No one citizen of the state of Iowa is going to have the kind of money that the government does. They can always just raise taxes and raise a little more money, but we don't have the luxury of doing that. So that's one thing that we're going to do when these bills pass, is help out the people that are fighting against the government, because we can't just have one individual fighting by himself. And I know we have groups of people get together, but you're never going to have as much money as the state. And what my second bill would do is require the governor's signature on a project where the state uses condemnation. I think this is very important for the sheer fact that somebody needs to be held accountable. If they're going to sign off on something, they're going to be held accountable in the next election cycle, and we're going to say, you're not going to be taking our property rights without someone being held accountable, and I think that's very important for an elected official to be held accountable. So coming today. I know the weather hasn't been that great. It only happens on Mondays, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that these bills are brought to the floor. And as Representative Kaufman said, if this is going to be a priority for the majority party, it's a priority for the minority party. So thank you very much.
We'll end here with my friend Ed Fallon. There's a couple other pieces just to throw out there. We've got more. This issue's too big. And again, we're just glancing over this. So the folks in the media would like the list, that's fine. A couple of other things. The condemning authority must have adequate funding for the project before the condemnation begins. Something else that a lot of Iowans don't realize is going on. There are state and local dollars that are being paid to lobbyists to lobby for these projects that are going to require condemnation. I don't think you folks' tax dollars should be used to lobby for the projects that's going to take your land. There's something inherently unfair about that. For our Mahaska County people, where you have a corporation trying to remove land from the historic register so they can build the airport of their dreams, that shouldn't happen. That should be in code, that it shouldn't happen. And then, finally, last but not least, a lot of people don't realize this. Right now, when the compensation commissions meet, the people that determine how much your land is worth before they take it, you realize that all of those negotiations occur behind closed doors. You shut the door and it occurs. You folks don't get to be a part of that particular meeting. There's an open meetings law that's moving through state government right now. I strongly believe, and I believe Iowans believe, that this should be a part of it. Open up the compensation meetings, and you ought to be able to sit there while they're talking about your land, period.